And we welcome you back to Washington, D.C. with Bucknell leading American by 3 at the half. Here at Bend Arena in our nation's capital, which also happens to be the hometown of our halftime guest, Reggie Greenwood, who is now the coordinator of officials for the Patriot League and the Ivy League after 28 years as a Division I basketball referee, including an appearance in the 2005 Final Four. We were just talking about what it's like for you to be on the sideline. Do you sometimes get that urge to be out there blowing the whistle again?
Not anymore. I used to when I first started doing this, and after doing this for a while, you know, it's the teaching, the training, and the opportunities that I like, and it's always good to try something different after a while.
And Reggie, you're also observing, evaluating how your officials handle things that occur during games. What can you tell us about a stoppage in play and a look at a replay in the first half of this one?
Basically, we saw the foul, and then the kid grabbed his nose, and his nose is bleeding. So most officials would then consider that maybe there was an elbow involved. And by rule, they have to go and look. If there's an elbow, you have a certain period of time that you actually have to go and look. And if you don't go and look and there's an elbow, and if the elbow is flagrant, then that means that that person is going to be ejected from the game. So in order to be safe and sure that you're going to get the right play and get the right person, you got to go to the monitor, and that's what they did.
Talking about teaching and in your role, some of the things you're trying to instill, what's most important in the emotional makeup of an official? Because obviously nobody in the building is a fan of yours except if you have a relative in the house. So how do you have to handle all the various situations that occur during the course of a basketball game?
The one thing that coaches talk about most is communications and how we communicate with them. And I think a lot of officials don't communicate very well. And one of the things that I always prided myself in is I always wanted to be able to talk to the coaches and let them know that I'm listening to them, I hear you, and we're going to look at what you're asking us to look at, but we're not going to listen to you all night. But that's the hardest thing to teach young referees is to how to communicate. Sometimes if you don't know what to say, you say nothing. But you do have to talk, and you do have to be able to communicate effectively so that you get your point across.
One thing that stood out about watching you is you communicated effectively whether you were working Georgetown, Syracuse on Monday or Bucknell American on Thursday. Can you talk about focus, whether you're working in the proverbial big-time Big East or in a mid-major conference?
You always were aware that because of TV and because of all the opportunities for people to see you work, that you had to produce every single night. And I was very conscious of that. And I made sure that people, when they saw me on Saturday doing the Big Ten, Big East, ACC, that I gave them the same effort, whether I was doing the Patriot League, the Ivy League, the America East, or even the CIAA Division II.
Because this is still the most important game in the lives of these young men.
Absolutely, and they deserve your very best. You can't do anything less than that. If you're not going to do that, then you shouldn't be out here.
How about in your career? Mentioned 2005, you got Michigan State, North Carolina, 47,000 people in St. Louis. Were you nervous?
Actually, no, because building up to that, you work through the first and second rounds, and it's certainly indicative of all the big games that you've been involved in all your career, and certainly that's a big game. But you got to put your focus there, and you got to go and do your job. And if you do your job and you do it right, then you have no problems. Yes, there's some jitters, just like in any big game. And of course, I've had 37,000 screaming fans in the Syracuse Carrier Dome. So it's not. I mean, I don't mean to diminish or demean that whole experience, but it was terrific. It was absolutely terrific. And you do have a little bit of nerves, but you want to put that aside and go do your job.
Reggie, very quickly, when you look back on that particular moment, was that the highlight of your career?
That was a highlight. It certainly was a crescendo. Obviously, you build up to that point. But there were so many big games along the way. One of the biggest games was when I had the game where UAB upset, and it was one of the biggest upsets in NCAA history when they upset the #1 seed in Kentucky. And you couldn't ask for two greater coaches, you know. Tubby Smith was terrific, and of course that game just went right down to the wire, and you know your heart's pounding and you want to not make a mistake, and certainly there are a number of great games that I've been involved in.
I thought you were going to say the highlight was this interview. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bob.
Reggie Greenwood, our guest. He's the coordinator of officials in the Patriot League as well as the Ivy League. Again, a terrific Division I basketball referee, and he certainly can appreciate plays like this from American's Riley Graff, beautifully orchestrated, helping the Eagles draw within 3.